Hey all, and welcome back to Vanquish. We've just taken out all the guys who were loitering in front of that door, and now it's time to carry on with Act 4.
We should be able to get into the industrial complex from here.
What's a sit rep for that area?
Don't know, sir. Enemy RIs are occupying the area, and we aren't getting any actionable intel.
Then we'll just figure it out when we get there.
So yeah, the terminology there, sitrep, situation report, that's one that might have slipped a few people by, but you know, they're gonna force in as much like military terminology here as they can, and it's fitting. This is how these people would talk. Maybe it's a little bit forced in parts, but you know, that's the tone of the game. It's what they're doing. It's how these kind of gruff, like, soldier dudes will be talking to each other. It does what it needs to do, really. But yeah, I will say, and I probably need to address the elephant in the room here if you've been following this playthrough. I'm sorry about the long delay in carry on with Act 4. The original intent for this playthrough would be that I would do like an act's worth of videos every week, and so, you know, it'd just come out as and when. You wouldn't be waiting too long for new parts. And that kind of happened for the first few acts, until I managed to get ill and my throat completely killed me. Like, my throat's still hurting a lot now, but I can actually talk now at last. But yeah, it just meant that I couldn't really record, and if I did, then you would have just heard me coughing and spluttering, and that's not very nice. So yeah, we should be back on track now once this video's up, and once that's all out and ready to go, then I'll carry on with Act 5, because we are in the tail end of the game now. Like, we've only got 3 more missions in Act 4, and then we go into Act 5, which is the final act of the game. And Act 5 in itself is actually quite short. Like, I think Act 4 and 5 are probably about as long as each other, but naturally Act 5 is where there's a lot of, you know, hype moments. There's some confrontations that, you know, get you pumping up a bit. Like, the final boss is really cool. It's like, I'm looking forward to covering that. And then, of course, there's also the ending sequence, which, you know, I think it's something to look forward to, because I like how this game concludes. It concludes about as well as it plays. But right now on screen, we're coming up to one of the parts that I remember having a fair bit of grief with when I first played the game, because right now we're just sort of picking things off on our way down, but once we get onto that section down there that I just tilted the camera around to, that's when they throw so much fucking shit at us that we need to, you know, just wipe out before we can progress. And we'll also see a bit of destructible terrain here, because this cover that we're standing behind right now, that's not reliable cover. If the guys want to, you know, shoot at that, like fire one of their arms through it or ram into it, it's gonna fucking rip. And so the longer this goes on, the less cover you have to protect yourself. And, you know, that's something that you want to be on the ball a little bit. Like, I think we've had some parts like that. Like, we've had parts where there's been not that much cover. Like, we had the Argus fight in the last part, which was like very restricted in terms of cover. Although I seem to recall most of the cover there, at the very least, was permanent. Like, we just saw that wall get smashed down there. But like, yeah, in the Argus fight it was permanent, just very limited. Whereas now it starts off, like, you get the few things that you can stand behind. Like, there's a little bit left you can see there. But like, the more they keep ramming at you, the more they keep using dig, because that is basically the Pokemon move dig, what they're doing right there. But the more they do stuff like that, the more vulnerable you get. And naturally, this little part over in the corner, like, this is permanent cover, but it's also getting yourself cornered. And if he's there, which he will work his way towards you as quickly as he can, then, you know, you're incredibly vulnerable. And that was the part where I hadn't realised that was something that I could have used as cover, and instead just boosted into the wall and then wondered why I couldn't move. Like a complete idiot, because I have my dumb moments, as you just saw. I love it. But yeah, given, like, we're at a part now where I've been through all these stuff I could say, like, in terms of my impressions and that. I've had a very quick look at the Platinum developer blog. Like, there's a few different blog posts from around the time this game was like being worked on and came out, like originally back in 2010. There's some posts here. One that I've got open here is about balancing, and this is a blog post from somebody called Junichi Oka, one of the game designers from Vanquish, and apparently he was also in charge of checking strategy guides that were produced for the game. So like, he would have had to have looked through like the way the game plays and got all the notes together and all that shit. And his post here, this is dated the 28th October 2010, and he says, speaking of strategy guides, I would often look up Western guidebooks while we were producing the game, since it was my first time working on a shooter and I didn't really know where to begin for just about everything. I did a lot of studying. So, you know, like, if you're going into this new genre of game, like, this just sort of stuff, I find this fascinating, because, like, I wouldn't have thought to look at strategy guides for this sort of thing. I would have thought just, you know, look for gameplay, play games, but little things like when you see the ideal ways of approaching things, you find the tricks that lead into things like this, then, you know, that's a useful way to put together how games are designed in a way that makes getting good at them rewarding, which is something, like I've talked about already, is one of Vanquish's biggest strengths, the fact that there's a very high skill ceiling. But he then goes on to say, like, once the game started taking shape, I didn't really look at them anymore. Instead, it was time to take our own route through things. One of the reasons was because the game was so fast there was no way traditional third-person shooter level design would match the tempo we were after. If you haven't seen what I mean about the game being fast, please download the demo of the game and give it a try. So this was like early days, I take it, given this was when they were trying to promote the demo. Vanquish is a game where we couldn't allow anything that would harm either the speed or the strategy required to play the game. We made the game so you couldn't just hide under cover, but you also couldn't recklessly move forward without dying. And we never forgot that it wasn't an action game, it was a shooting game. For those of you playing the game and getting stuck, keep those principles in your mind, and I think things will go better for you. So that's interesting, like the way that it was during development that it kind of outgrew traditional third-person shooter tropes, and so they realised that what was working for all these other games, like the games that they'd been looking at the strategy guides for, the games they'd been playing and trialing and all that, like, it was, that works for them, but it doesn't work for us because we want it to have this fast tempo to it. And then, like, the final paragraph here from this blog is, Vanquish is a game that rewards you putting time into it. What may seem like an impossible situation can be overcome easily by studying the terrain and cover points, then changing your strategy. We made the game so there's never an instance where you can say, this is it, like there was only one right way of doing things. Instead, I think it's a game where you can look at someone else play and want to steal the controller away, thinking, no, this is how I would do it. So please, steal the controller from the person next to you. I love that. But that, again, that's also indicative of the design philosophy there, that it's like there's all these different ways you can play it, and like some people might have a certain approach that's rewarding for them, others might have their own way of doing things.
Got any better ideas?
No, you're right.
But now we're on to the slave mission, and we're getting right close to the end of Act 4 now, because it's just this, and then there is one more mission after this, which I believe is another short one. Like, just looking at the video now, we've got like 13 minutes left. We're going to get these two missions out the way pretty rapidly here. But this is a kind of structure that I quite like the look of visually, and that's purely because it, like, there's these different layers going on that, like, while we're naturally on the same layer as those guys we can see right there, that's going to change in a minute. We're going to be going down, we're going to be seeing other things going on, we're going to have guys above us, we might have some guys, like, horizontal to us. It's that extra dynamic that it keeps you on your toes a lot, and it's the kind of thing that it brings out the challenge for you, similar to how they were talking about in that developer blog, that, like, you're going to have to keep on your toes, you're going to have to keep moving, and it keeps up that tempo in the fact that you know, there's not a case of like one layer, hide behind the thing, stick your head up, shoot, then duck back down, move forward. Like, there's going to be an element of that, but there's also going to be the element of, if I stand here for too long, then the guys behind me can get me. Or if I stand here too long, then, like, I'll have the other guys on another layer shoot at me, and I've got to keep on moving. I can't leave myself in harm's reach for too long. And just general things like that I think's cool.
Assassin RI, a test version. NATO calls them Crystal Vipers. It's like
Now, these things, the Crystal Vipers, these can be pretty lethal. If they get in too close to you, then they're going to hurt you. And it doesn't really slow them down that much, at least from what I'm seeing here when you go into your AR mode. So you want to keep yourself moving. You want to never let him out of your sight, because if he goes out of your sight, then next thing you know, he'll be behind you and he'll stab you. And yeah, you kind of want to avoid that. You don't want to leave yourself too open to, you know, stealth attacks from fucking Crystal Pepsi Man over here. Like, that's not good. But he also has them projectiles, which are not his main attack. Like, the main attack he's using there, it actually looks like he's using, if you've ever played Halo, like the energy swords from that game. Like, it's mostly the Covenant enemies that have those. Like, you'll quite often see elites with the energy swords in Halo. It's what it reminds me of. And I suppose it's the way that it's glowing, and it's also, he comes right in close and does that slash kill thing. So yeah, just always keep your eye on him and drink Pepsi, I guess. He does look like Pepsi Man to a certain degree. If he had a bit more blue on him, then he would be fucking Pepsi Man. Now this is some damage.
What happened?
the plasma energy containment tank just flew. Hold on. This is bad, Sam. There's a large hole in the outer containment hull of the colony.
A hole? Sam, you two got a way out of this one?
Our briefing said there were shelters below this area.
Affirmative. You should be able to close an internal barrier down there.
Okay, move out, Bravo!
And that's how you get into Eggman's Interstellar Amusement Park, folks. Emancipation. Now, how's that for a fucking badass mission title, eh? But yes, this is actually a really cool mission aesthetically. Like, look at that. Look at the fucking space station shit outside and all the stars going down.
You're in a zero gravity zone. Take caution.
Roger.
So yeah, I just really do like the aesthetic of this particular mission, and as soon as we get through here, we've got some really cool gravity physics going on. Like, it's not like floaty gravity physics, at least not in terms of control. Like, you saw that guy just floating off into the abyss there. Like, now your control's still on the ground and that, but you got a kind of Mario Kart 8 sort of thing going on where you can curve around onto the ceiling, onto the walls and that. Everything just slides around into everything. It's not quite anti-grav, because I think anti-grav would imply that you do go floating off into space, but it's like I suppose what I'm trying to get at is that you can run up walls and not fall off. Really, like, it's basically like a fucking Dimp's Land or some shit. But it does sort of spice up the arenas for the last little mook rush here. Gives you some more, like, movement opportunities, I guess, because now it's like, it's not just you who can slide around on the walls and slide around on the ceiling and all that, like, the enemies can as well. So there's that extra dimension of where are they, not letting them out of your sight, not letting anyone sneak up on you. And then naturally when you see that big purple glow, you know that's the time where maybe a more challenging guy is going to show up. Like, we had the huge mech come out of it in the last section. We had fucking Crystal Pepsi Man come out of it in the last mission. Yeah, so, yeah, when you see that, you gotta think, yeah, I should probably not let them beat the fuck out of me or my teammates. Or it could just be like a little squad like that. Either way, get rid of the Gorges. Get rid of whoever may be standing within your, like, general intended direction. I don't know if you can tell, folks. It's getting near the end of a playthrough. I'm getting a little bit delirious. But yeah, visually speaking, this place just looks so cool. Just the way it's constructed, the whole futuristic vibe of it. Like, this is probably the most sci-fi this game gets. And given this game has been, like, stereotypically sci-fi all the way through, that's saying quite a fair bit. It's one of these fuckers again. Yeah, here he is again. He's didn't kind of settle for getting killed off on the Creon. Nope, he had to come back. He had to show up here. And he's actually just as fiddly as he was. I suppose the benefit here is that this is quite a small battle arena. Like, he can go the other side of the gate, I believe. So, like, if you were still there, he would come out and get you. But because I moved inwards, he didn't really have that chance. And he's going to keep trying to pay attention to what I'm doing here. So as long as I stay moving around, sliding around in this section here, or at least stay quite close to it, then, like, I'm not going to get cornered. It's big enough that I'm not going to get cornered in and trapped, but it's also small enough that I can't lose him. I can't worry about him getting stealth attacks on me. A neat little touch there, like the empty bullet shells were just floating just to show off the questionable gravity going on here, which I think's pretty cool. I did actually just notice that just then looking at the footage. And I like that when I do catch little things after I've played the game a few times, especially little graphical things. Granted, some are more rewarding than others. Like, I will never forget the first time I caught the little animated teardrop over Shadow the Hedgehog in the HD version of Sonic Adventure 2, like during the scene where they're like looking out the window in the colony and that, and they just put this really cartoony teardrop on him during an emotional scene. That looks stupid as fuck. But yeah, when it's something actually cool, then I'm completely down with it.
What's it looking like outside?
There are still some stragglers heading for the shelter.
How much time we got left?
Not sure, but if you don't hurry, internal pressure in the colony will drop below sustainable levels.
Enough of the physics! Just shut the damn blast doors!
We can't do that. You've still got men out there.
Men who were ready to die when they signed up for this mission. You know that!
Let's not give up on them just yet. There's still time.
I don't take orders from DARPA!
So yeah, I think this conflict between Sam and Burns here is kind of coming to a head. Like, they've been at each other's backs all the way through, with the occasional like little helping each other out thing when they're in need. But I think the ultimate conflict between like Burns being completely ruthless and just wanting to get the job done, while Sam having more like empathy towards the squad. That's kind of a thing that probably can't really be worked through too much.
How many people you think have already died for this? Failure is not an option now. It never was.
So you fail those men out there instead?
What part of Marines complete the mission did you not understand? We do what has to be done. I don't pick and choose how. You go ahead. I'll make sure our rear flank is covered.
This high-speed elevator can take us right up to the enemy position.
Them little pod things shooting up, that must be really fucking intense. Like, I don't think I would ever want to be launched up anywhere at that like speed or velocity.
The U.S. had a recession.
History should lend credence to that theory.
Even with the sacrifice of San Francisco.
I never planned for that to happen. But sacrifice of some sort is unavoidable.
This is not the time or the place for regrets. The ends come before the means now.
Then I will let you handle the means.
And I will bring about the ends.
So, yeah. That's some stuff that's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, join me next time where we'll be moving on to the final act of Vanquish. See you then.